Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Deep in the Forest. I am Pastor Roger. With me, as always, Mariah Crooks.
Hey guys.
And we are picking it up from last week where we were talking about a little bit of Christian education and our reasons as to why it is important to have a Christian education. Today, we're going to go over some good things about, we're trying to push you more into the positive, whether I know that some people cannot afford to go to private school and a Christian school, but maybe you can afford, and not everybody can stay home and be a homeschool teacher, but maybe through this whole lens and changing your worldviews and trying to see how Christ could really be affecting you, and on the other side how the world can be affecting you at school. We're going to try to see those two worldviews and how they clash.
Mm-hmm.
So last week we talked about motivation, like how we had the motivation of Christ and everything that's good and moral and absolute truths.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other side, which is the world, which sounds kind of good at one point, right? They have a maybe like a moral compass of some sort, and they have some good bad stuff, that they try to make up. But obviously, because it is so relative, it falls apart and crumbles.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to go more into what is solid and what is breakable,
Yep.
what can be changed, and how we're supposed to respond as Christians, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
let's go into it a little bit, right? In today's world, there has been a few changes throughout history. I mean, like the, we had I believe at one point we had a good schools, like
Yeah.
maybe at one point in life when life barely started, and schools were barely brought up, we had, I mean, a good point,
Mm-hmm.
moralism and learning the Bible, and everybody would get together. But
Mm-hmm.
now we've lost that.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we teaching in schools? Some things are like, man, I mean, we used to think that 4 plus 4 was 8, and it was just like that simple. It
Mm-hmm.
was just like math was only talking about numbers. And like now it's like, okay, well, somehow in math we got to talk about genders, and like,
Yeah.
and we got to be, obviously that's only because you're race, like,
Yeah.
I mean, where did that go wrong, right? So
Yeah.
what do you think? I mean, you were in school a lot,
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
just
I went to
recently.
public school for 4 years in high school,
Mm,
and then I was in public school again for 5 years in college. And there's a lot more political ideology being taught than there is actual learning taking place.
hmm.
Or from what I've heard, they're teaching you what to think, not how to think.
Oh, nice.
So they're setting the standards. This is what, is truth. This is what isn't truth. But
Mm,
even then, that's up for debate if truth is relative, which they teach as well. So, what is truth? Whose truth? You know,
yeah.
multiple truths, no truth. It's
Right.
just, it becomes so confusing.
But on the
And
perception of like the beholder and stuff,
yeah,
like,
yeah. And I think that's where we go wrong in education, because we know as Christians that the Bible is what is truth. And so once you remove the Bible, anything is up for grabs regarding what to believe and how to believe it.
yeah.
And we start defining things ourselves.
Yeah, so I mean that once we get like the power into our own hands,
Yeah.
that's like the problem,
Yep.
and having relative truths, that's what really comes into like the big, that's the makes a lot of turmoil. And I think it's like the
Mm-hmm.
oldest trick in the book, like
Mm-hmm.
ever since the beginning, chapter 3 of Genesis, literally,
Yep.
like the oldest story, there's a serpent, and that serpent tells a half truth.
Yep.
And like he says, like, you will die, but you will be like God. You won't die, sorry, he won't die, and you will be
Mm-hmm.
like gods.
Mm-hmm.
Now within that, yeah, sure, you will be like God, but not in the good context. You'll
Mm-hmm.
actually be the bad context of what it is to have God, be God, like the knowledge and the weight that only God can support. And then on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, like you actually will die. It's a complete, it goes against what God had already said.
Yeah.
So once we start making our own, logic and our own way of thinking, I think that's when we have the huge problem in
Yep.
life. And
Yep.
that, I think that's what the public schools are trying to do or have done
Yeah.
over the last centuries, right?
Yep, definitely. And I would recommend, if this is your first podcast that you're listening to listen to the one we did before, because we break down, more so the history behind how
Hmm.
public education got started, who started it, whose hands it was, delivered into, and what we have today. But like you said, the attack started in the garden.
Hmm.
But ever since public education became a reality, I think the attacks started with evolution in the 1920s being introduced. And that was a
Okay.
huge thing that churches and Christian families were in an uproar over, because it was going against what the Bible says, which is that God created everything in a literal 6-day creation.
Right.
So you would think that because of the uproar that something would have happened to then push back enough against evolution
Mm.
where then it wouldn't continue to be taught. But I think we just allowed everything to unravel. We got used to it. Even me, like, I was going to public school just knowing I was going to be taught evolution,
Right.
and just, okay, like, I know it's not real, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'll submit to the teaching in the classroom,
Yeah.
because that's just what you have to do. And we've let things get so out of control that now we have things like critical race theory and the gender revolution just infiltrating not even college students anymore.
Right.
It's going all the way down to kindergarten.
Wow.
And I can see where, once you're an adult, then you make your own decisions
Mhm.
over what you choose to believe in. But once it starts coming after the little ones
Yeah.
who don't have anything else to go off of but what their kindergarten teacher's telling them, this becomes a major problem for parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, it's that, I think that's you hit like you brought up a good point, which was like, we're Christians. We know what to do. We know the truth. We
Yeah.
don't believe in evolution as they speak it, like
Yeah.
they teach it in a very different way than could even be possible according to even logic, but also the Bible, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
obviously we think that the Bible is the truest and the all holding truth. But somehow we decide, at what point do we decide, like, well, it's okay to let them teach our kids like a theory,
Yeah.
and I think that that's like the thing was so astute, from the public education system and all these things, the scientific people, I guess, that they have, all the science majors in life have basically decided, we're going to teach a theory as if it were fact.
Yeah.
And that was like, man, the greatest heist of all time, because nobody could just teach a theory as if it were fact and then play it long enough to where they just decided, okay, well, now it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Like they basically just decided, if we're gonna play the long game, and we're just gonna
Yeah.
like introduce a theory, and then because of that name, theory, it almost sounds like, well, it's okay, guys. The Christian community, they're okay with it. It's just a
Mm.
theory. We're not telling you it's a fact. But then after a long time, it just becomes like, okay, well, no, this is the standard now
Yep.
of what is truth, which we know it's not. And so that's the dangerous, because I mean, if it happens with evolution, so much that now I believe that majority of the people that just go to school, they just believe that to be true.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't question it. They don't think that might just be a theory.
Yeah.
It's a fact to them.
And
So
unfortunately, I mean, even in school, we were taught that theories are only such once they're testable and measurable.
yeah.
And unfortunately, evolution isn't even that. So I would go so far as to say it's a hypothesis that's been
Right.
pushed as a theory that's been accepted as fact.
Uh,
And so
yeah.
it's really sad, because no one is double checking to see
No.
what's true. They're
No.
just taking it and they believe it is fact.
That's the dangerous thing, because then, like you said, now they're introducing other theories,
Yeah.
the critical race theory,
Mhm.
or other gender, like fluidity theories,
Mhm.
and things like that. So they're trying to make sure that you're kind of believing things, but they come in with with these different labels so that you don't get like a rise out of the Christian community or anything like
Yeah.
that. You just decide this is it, like we're just gonna allow it,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody gets into an uproar, which I think that as Christians we should be in an uproar. We should have like a reaction of some sort, like
Yeah.
I mean, I I'm a boomer, so I have Facebook, and that's like the only place where I really see it. But outside of like Facebook, where is the outrage
Yeah.
on people getting taught like some things like, well, even for example, like the gender fluidity. I think that that's my major thing today.
Mm-hmm.
Like pronouns and things like that, because I think that that's being taught really early. The
Yeah.
critical race theory is probably I yeah, it's not as pushed as much,
Yeah. It's in
but
its beginning stages still.
yeah, but the gender kind of revolution that they're trying to do, I think that that's gotten quite a bit of traction right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it was something I took note of, and I've noticed being in public education, even being in different jobs. But I think just as a Christian, again, like it doesn't really matter what everyone else is accepting, but if you are a Christian and you know the Bible to be true, and that, in Genesis, God created them male and female, why are we so passive
Mm,
about what is being taught? I mean, we should be yearning for things to change anyway, even for the children in these education systems who aren't, they don't have a Christian background, they're not being raised by Christian parents. I think there's still stuff to do, even if you are homeschooling your kids right now, or your kids are in a private education school. It's just so counter to
mm,
what the Lord has mandated. And it's leading down a dark road of just confusion.
yeah,
Again, these kids are young. They're elementary school age,
right.
trying to, you know, change their pronouns,
Ugh,
change their name. There's a lot of laws now being passed where
yeah,
there can be sex reassignment surgery without even parental consent as young as 14, 15. Um,
jeez.
so this is huge, and if we continue to be passive, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like the thing about it is just the passivity that some people are taking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally made us like, okay, we gotta do the first thing, the first vlog that we make. It has to be like based on this, because we're this
Yeah.
sense of urgency. We got to reach out to people.
Yes.
We got to make sure that people have at least the knowledge of this is what's really going on. Some people are so busy and so like they have so many things on their plate that whatever they're teaching their kids at school they believe to just be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't fully agree with it, but they believe that school has the best interest in kids. They have that, like, okay, well, at least the school really cares for my children, and
Mhm.
and maybe they make some mistakes, but it's okay because they have a pure heart. But the
Mhm.
truth is they don't have a pure heart, and they
Mm-mm.
have the interest of themselves in it, and they don't
Yes.
really have the interest of the kids at all.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, you're seeing it obviously through a parental lens. You have two children yourself. And so I think the urgency should be even higher.
Hmm.
Being a parent of your own children, just knowing what could be, what they could be taught. And thank goodness, you and Steph are able to have them in a Christian private education,
Right.
and they're being taught God's word and a biblical worldview. But it's definitely scary.
I mean, like we got a little taste of like homeschool
Oh,
for
yeah. Oh, yeah.
quarantine during quarantine. I think
Mhm.
all the parents did, and it's just like I think that that's why people just send their kids to school and they're like, whatever they're teaching them, that's what we're taking. Because like I cannot handle my kids for 6 hours. Like God bless them teachers,
Yeah,
bro, because my
yeah.
kids are annoying, bro. So I mean, yeah, we kind of like think, okay, whatever they're doing, it should be okay. But man, it's like, it's not really like some of those things. Like you said, the gender reassignment. They're trying to get them to choose their own pronouns, and it's all very like playful and very, just nonchalantly. They're
Very
trying to make it,
whimsical.
really like we live in this world where you could choose whatever you want
Yes.
and be what you want. And it sounds so like, yeah, like really whimsical and magical. And you're just kind of like, well, today I'm a girl and magically tomorrow I'm a boy,
Yeah.
like, and whatever I feel like that's what I want to be and identify as. And so it's like,
Yes.
I mean, that cannot be good as a logic, for anybody's brain developing.
No.
The standards that it's just like, whatever is today might change tomorrow.
Mhm.
That's not good as a character builder.
No,
You
yeah.
have to have structure. You have to have a building block and like a
Yes.
solid foundation. And
Yes.
if the foundation of like even just you and who you are can be changed, imagine how that's affecting the young 6, 7-year-old kids who are just right there like beginning life, and they're like, well, today I don't even know what I am."
Yeah, exactly. And I think we give children too much power over
Hmm.
this too because they're being taught it, right? Back in the day, if you were like, I was considered a tomboy growing up, but it wasn't like, oh, she may actually try, she may identify as a boy,
Mm,
or, she may be confused about her comfortability in her body.
right.
No, it was just you grow up as a tomboy
Yeah.
and you outgrow it and you're taught,
Mm,
no, you're a girl and there's certain things that are permissible as a girl becoming a woman and a boy becoming a man. And just because a little boy ends up picking up a doll instead of a truck doesn't mean
yeah.
like, oh my goodness,
That's it.
he must be identifying as a girl now.
Yeah.
Like, I have to do everything. I have to like change his wardrobe.
Yeah.
We'll give him a new name. I think parents are so unfortunately delusional
Right.
when it comes to the intellect of their own children. That's where that's where parents are supposed to parent.
Yeah.
They don't like follow their children. The children follow them.
Yeah.
And so while a lot of it is education and them being in preschool to high school Monday through Friday, 8 hours a
Mm,
day, that's going to
mhm.
affect them the majority of the time. A lot of parents, I think, too. Obviously not Christian parents. I would hope not.
Yeah.
But
But
the rhetoric is being spewed from even the family.
yeah. And which is funny because like I heard that on like a statistic that parents are being more strict on what their kids eat than what their kids wear,
Mm,
and basically leading down to what gender they assume.
yeah.
Um,
Which
so
is
like,
terrible.
yeah, because I mean, back in my days, we could eat Doritos, but we were a boy, like we could just
Yeah.
like Cheeto puffs all day, and what did my mom
Yeah.
care if I downed it with a Coke or not?
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like you're eating kale because that's what's healthy,
Ugh.
but obviously, you could change your gender because somehow that's less healthy. I don't know, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
They're
Like
up in
there's like
arms
a
over like grass-fed almond milk. Like but you know what? If you want to wear a dress, like that's on you.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
so
so
crazy.
backwards. It's
Yeah,
so backwards.
it really is. That's like such a cringy way to do it. I mean, like, but I love in that Genesis 1 chapter, it really goes down to like the answer where God says, and here's the thing, we're going to solve both of those issues, the critical race theory, and we're going to solve the, gender fluidity theory with one verse. Really, it says God created humankind in his own image, which
Mhm.
right there, the value of human race, the value of people, is set in one thing: God's image, right? The image of God. So if you're going against, another race or another color or another person, you're wrong because you're going against God.
Yep.
But
Yep.
on the other hand, he created them male and female.
Yep.
He created them. So uh, two issues, one verse, absolute truth.
Yep.
Like you now have the power, right? Like
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. It doesn't go really far in the Bible. So
Yes.
it just says you are created either a man or a woman. There is no third option there. He doesn't say
Yep.
like, oh, God created they and thee,
Yeah,
like in
yeah.
like these like new and shims, like
Yeah.
he doesn't create some ambiguous thing. He creates two things, a male and a female.
Yeah.
And they're actually, if you were to continue reading that, their whole purpose was, or not their whole purpose, but basically they were supposed to procreate. One of their first laws or one of their first commandments was to procreate.
Mhm.
So in other words, they were supposed to be together with each other, complement each other,
Mhm.
and that's going to be God's plan. God's plan is for the family and for them to procreate.
Yep.
I mean, it really just comes down to that. So I mean, that solves that issue right there. If you're a Christian and you believe that there is more than more than two genders, or more than one orientation, or you know what I mean, like you've got to be wrong. You're wrong.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
there's that it just is that simple. Like
Yeah.
there's not this whole like 2 + 2 = 5. Where postmodernism has got us all messed up in our heads.
Yep.
That's not it. And so then brings us to our last point, that critical race theory
Mhm.
that's been taught in schools. Which at first I will say that because it's been a long time. This term has been around for a while. Critical race theory has
Mhm.
it's not new. I think a lot of people have just recently discovered it, and it's only
Mhm.
because they're redefining it. So as people on, we could call it the left,
Yeah.
as people on the left have just taken over this theory, they've decided to redefine it. and
Mhm.
and I was not fully on board on it, but at first, with its original terms, it wasn't that bad to understand. And what it was is that they wanted to really join every single race all together, and knowing that some of the races would have advantages because of our histories, right? So for example, European white males have had, according to these people, advantages over other people.
Yeah.
And why is it? Maybe it's because well, I'll tell you why. Like, there's been, out of all the 27 domestic animals in Europe, you will find 14 of them. So I mean, like, off the bat, they had cattle, they had horses, they had all these like crazy technological advances that come from having just being able to have those domesticated animals, rather than like in Africa you have like lions. You're never going to domesticate,
Yeah.
and like in northern and southern America, there was actually just a lack of domestication
Mhm.
of animals. I mean, they have some animals, but they're so wild and so jungle driven that it's just hard to. And in Asia, there's different types of animals. They do have some, but that's where, like, European white males have succeeded based
Yeah.
on just geographically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is it because there's some sort of like crazy like thing where like they've gotten to be the slave owners, and that's why they were just on the jump easier?
Mm.
That's not it at all. it's
Mhm.
it's basically just God blessed them,
Yeah.
geographically. They were at the right place, right time,
Yeah.
and that's all really we could say about that.
Yeah.
So in any case, grabbing all those um different, and that's just an example out of many. We're talking
Yeah.
like hundreds of examples that we could go through, but I think that's the biggest one for me that really sticks by.
Mhm.
Getting all those data points and putting them together, it the critical race theory was supposed to like kind of like help us understand each other so that
Mhm.
we can become just one big human race.
Mhm.
But kind of like back in the garden, um humans never do things right.
Nope.
And we like misinterpret things,
Yeah.
and then we end up like calling people racist. And now the bad side is that now we're telling young white males, little boys, my son included, who's a young white boy, that he was just born racist,
Mhm.
that he can't help it, that he needs to repent from his sins,
Yep.
of racism, although he's not even really understanding what that even means, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason he was just born this way, can't even really help himself, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that that's one of those big things that is happening in schools today, that they're being taught that you're just racist
Yep.
and you have a problem,
Yep.
and you need to change you.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense, because then the only way we end up changing, unless we try to surgically change the color of our skin, is, change means your character. And so if you're not basing your assumption of me on my character from the start, then how do I change my character after that? And so they've replaced character and who a person is with just the color of their skin, which is so contradictory.
Yeah. Because if you get those two theories together, that gender reassignment and the race reassignment, it's like, why can we reassign gender, but we can't reassign race? Why can't I feel like a girl today and be a boy, but I can't feel like a white man being a black man? Like
people can't say, "Oh, I don't identify as racist." That won't fly. But they're like, "Oh, I identify as an animal."
Yeah, as an attack helicopter.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool." Doesn't make sense.
So I can identify as whatever I want, except for as a non-racist person.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that's such a contradictory statement. It's so weird that people just have that like mentality. We shouldn't have that mentality, but that's the problem, that's being taught that could be taught in some areas right now. They're really pushing it in Democratic states. They're really pushing it in Democratic counties. And some counties, like I believe Florida State will not teach critical race theory. Good for them. California, though, on the other side, not so much.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's rough, and I think it comes down to the parents.
Oh yeah.
If I don't want my kids to learn this, I should take my kids out of the school.
And that's what they're saying. Honestly, even those who aren't Christians, they're saying, get your kids out, take them home, and do whatever is necessary to either educate them yourself, which is, I think, the most ideal. But if you can't, find some means in which you can find, like, other families in your community, and you guys can all educate them together, or Christian school, if there's funds for that. But we have to get them out of there.
So well, hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you guys to make a decision. I know it's not going to be an easy one. Everything that we do, as Christians, might come with a price or a cost, but there's nothing that Christ hasn't already done for us, that we know that Christ has done it all, and that he will help you through all the difficult times in your life. So if you need to take a step of faith, and if you need to help, like maybe do something else, something radical in your life, well, I would like to just, extend you, write it down in your comments. We will pray for you here at church. If you do need a home church, come to the Forest. We're going to be here on Highway 111, and all the information will be on those on the comments. But just let us know, and if you want to join us, be here every Sunday at 7 p.m. So you're welcome.